Hello and welcome to GCTV for the final Insider of the year. Undoubtedly will be a jam-packed super insider as we look to try and fit in essentially a week of Global Champions League Super Cup showdowns into one single show. We are back from Prague. We have survived flight delays and we found our way back into the studio. Finally, Frederick de Backer. How wonderful it was to be alongside you on site all week long.
Yeah,
You're
really the first man all season to say that.
It really, really was. We often use this platform to talk about spectacles and wonderful locations. And is it fair to say that, to take nothing away from all the other stages of the year, that this is the spectacle of spectacles? This really is the Super Bowl of our sport, isn't it?
So I realized at the end of the week, I realized that we came there in 2018 for the first time, and it was impressive. 2019 was even stronger. And there was nothing in 2020, obviously. There was a small size event in 2021. Small size, the entertainment was big, but the attendance was low because of COVID and restrictions. And I realized that this was the first full-on event in a long time there at the O2 Arena for us. The first in 3 years. And it was the best one ever. Shows, techniques, pyrotechnics, light techniques, and the crowd, unseen. It was the first time that it was properly sold out on Saturday and on Sunday. They hoped for 30,000 spectators. They had more than 30,000 spectators. They already started selling tickets. I think it was on Saturday, and I think on Sunday noon, they already had sold hundreds for 2023. It was top.
Is it important for us to remind everyone that we dressed the same the whole week in Prague, and today this was completely unintentional, by the way? Is your smoking tuxedo still in the car? Should we go change?
It's at the dry cleaners.
Good on you. You're already going to the dry cleaners. I certainly haven't gone to the dry cleaners
I hope
yet.
somebody's taking it to the dry cleaner.
Someone might. I'll add mine to the list. Right. Nonsense aside, let's talk show jumping. For anyone in case that perhaps just needs reminding that there is a GCL Super Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, and a final that plays out throughout the entire week. And we will now try and unpack all of that for you and the main talking points from each stage. Let's start at the quarterfinals, where the Paris Panthers came out with an incredibly strong lineup, very heavy on talent, huge depth. Everyone thought, hey, this is a podium team. Talk to me about their quarterfinals and the statement that Paris Panthers made in that opening stage that really sent out a message.
He had an enormous list of horses and riders there, 4 riders, which was extreme luxury for Rob Hoekstra. He hasn't had that luxury all season. He was confident himself. He had a smile on his face. His riders were there. His horses were there. Nothing could go wrong. And what happened in the first round in the quarterfinal was a very, very strong statement to come out with 4. And the 4, of course, is just a number. You always have to compare it with the others. And it was Madrid in Motion on a score of 8. And then I think 5 teams on a score of 12, 2 teams on a score of 16. So the gap between Paris Panthers and the rest of the field was huge.
That's actually a good way to put it. You almost got the impression at the end of the quarterfinal that it was Paris versus everybody else. That's how dominant they were in the quarterfinal. Let's show you at the end of the opening stage, the quarterfinal stage, just how the teams ended up. As Frederick points out, a huge, huge window. Let's not forget, Stars in dramatic fashion. Jans Bachmann setting a lesson to kids all around the world and every rider that followed throughout the rest of Prague to look at the clock and wait for the bell. They were eliminated in unique circumstances. The defending champions, the London Knights, kicked out at the opening stage. New York Empire, always a soft spot for them, out as well. A quick look at how the top half of the table ended, because that then is important from the Paris Panthers story, and remind you just how comfortable they were. Because as Frederick pointed out, they were miles ahead, the best team. But this already helped us understand who was going into the semi-finals and who started to look impressive. Valkenswaard weren't great in the quarters, but we know that they improved. Were you surprised by their quarterfinal showing?
Can you imagine that Valkenswaard would have gone out in the quarters? They made it through based on time, not on points.
Wow.
That would have been really, really tricky and risky. I just think of 2 things. You make the comment about Jens Bachmann.
Yeah.
We have a joke about it. Can you imagine how he feels?
No, absolutely.
Oh, it must be horrible. And then the other thing, remind me in the beginning of next year if we should sit down with Sam from EquiRatings, that I will no longer put my money on New York Empire.
But you say that to me every year.
Ever again.
And then every year you tell me that they are your sweetheart, darling team, and you go back to them.
No, I'm just horribly disappointed. No, so they've cost me so much money.
Frederick is stepping away from New York Empire. Jens Bachmann is reminding us all about the rules of the start of a round, and that is how the quarterfinals shaped up. Enter the semi-final stage, and this is where the massive shocks began to roll through in the GCL Super Cup. Let's quickly show you how Paris played out in that semi-final.
Gregory Waterley.
And that's a very early 8. Steady. And with that, there's another rail.
Harry Schmulders should be okay with the clock. He has just one fence left to go, but it's gone. Ben Mayer.
So here's the final fence that's Schmulders had down, and it's also down for them.
That final fence could be what, well, stands between the Paris Panthers and the final on